All right, let's get started. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to FHCA's Board Orientation Webinar. I'm Emmett Reed, your Executive Director and today's moderator. Just as a reminder, today's webinar will be recorded and an online archive will be available in the Members Only section of the website under the Board of Directors link, so you can listen to this over and over and over again if you'd like. If you have district officers unable to join us today, please encourage them to view the recorded webinar. Throughout today's presentation, we'll be answering questions. If you'd like to submit a comment or question during the presentation, please type it into the question box and press send. Due to the number of participants, there will be no audio questions taken. Given that, we encourage you to use your computer audio instead of the regular phone line to maintain sound quality of today's presentation. If you're unable to get everyone's questions this morning, if we're unable to get them this morning, please know that staff is available to you anytime to answer your questions by phone or email. John Simmons, our president, is with us this morning, and I'd like to invite him to give a brief welcome before we jump into the orientation slides.
All right. Thank you, Emmett. I appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank you all for your service to FHCA. You know, we pride ourselves on being a member-driven organization, and you'll hear us say that often. And each of you play a valuable role in helping us serve the members in such manner. I know Emmett and his team will do a great job briefing you all this morning. This webinar was designed to familiarize you with more of the benefits and services that FHCA has to offer and the support that the FHCA staff can lend to you, not only as volunteers, but also as members as a whole. I don't know if you've all had the chance to see my latest writing in the Pulse, but it will let you know exactly how I feel about the FHCA staff. They are fabulous. Your knowledge and understanding of all this is very important to us, as you are our spokespeople out in the field. You can help tell your peers about what FHCA has to offer and the return on their membership investment. And it's very important that we begin to think about letting others know about their return on their investment in our membership. So I invite you to pay attention. You're going to learn a lot today. And again, thank you for taking this time to listen. And I look forward to working with each of you during the year ahead. Anything I can do for you to help you with your work out there, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I think you all know how to reach me. Thanks, Emmett. Back to you.
All right, John, thank you so much, and I can echo John's statement. He means what he says. He's going to be a very active president and really has already hit the ground running, so we appreciate that, John. I'll get started with our presentation now. You know, the association, we always talk about the board and the executive committee and things of that nature, and what I'd like to do with this webinar is just dig a little bit deeper and kind of give you a little bit throughout my part of the presentation, a little bit of history of how things have kind of shaped up over the last nearly 8 years that I've been on board, and how this how it's supposed to function and how it is functioning, I guess, in actuality. First and foremost, we have our executive committee members, as you see there. President is John Simmons. Then you've got Alex Tarantev as the Senior Vice President, Secretary Anita Fallman, Marco Carrasco as the Treasurer. Our member at large is Mel Beal. I'll go back to that in a moment. Nonprofit Vice President Keith Myers, Independent Owner Vice President Jeffrey Freemark, Past President Joe Mitchell, and then me. I am a non-voting member of the Executive Committee. The Executive Committee is charged with making decisions on behalf of the association in between board meetings. And so our bylaws gives that executive committee latitude to make decisions anywhere from if I'm having a major personnel issue, a lot of times I'll rely on the executive committee for guidance, or if our air conditioning unit breaks down and we have a huge expense, you know, generally something over 20 grand, I'll call the executive committee and make sure they're okay with us, you know, doing what we need to do to keep the office functional, to membership issues. For instance, last year we had a pretty big blow up with the PPS issue, and the executive committee was in constant communication with each other and with me to help make decisions throughout that process. Any binding decision that the executive committee makes, or I should say actionable decision that the executive committee makes, has to be ratified by our board of directors at the next board of directors meeting. So the executive committee is always very careful about what they approve, because they know that no matter what they approve, they have to bring it to the full board for ratification afterward. I've never been a part of a board meeting that didn't ratify what the executive committee did, and I really don't want to be, so we try to be very cautious in how we move forward. But they're a very active group, and typically it's historically members serve 2 one-year terms before they move up. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's just generally how it's worked at FHCA. So it's a great executive committee. I appreciate their time. Did want to mention Mel Beal was voted by our Florida Promise as a member at large to be the FHCA Executive Committee member. So essentially what happens is our Florida Promise and FHCA a long time ago decided, look, let's write into our bylaws a connection between the Florida Healthcare Association and our Florida Promise, which I'll talk about a little bit later because they are separate entities, but they wanted to stay connected. And the best way to do that is to make sure that there's a representative that serves both of those groups, and that way the voices of both groups can be heard and we can be unified. Again, I'll explain why that's important a little bit later, but I did want to make note that that's changed from Tom Groesbeck to Mel Beal, same company, just different representatives. Tom will be Mel's alternate and will likely come to many of the FHCA board meetings. Then we have our vice presidents. The multi-facility vice president is Kathy Galen, assisted living facility vice president is Stephen Shrunk, and our associate member vice president is Bradley Cox. The idea of these vice presidents is to serve the sectors that they are the vice presidents of. So, for instance, if the multi-facility members have an issue, they would bring it to Kathy or ALF, Stephen, and the associate members would work through Bradley Cox. Again, it's so our member groups can have a direct voice with FHCA leadership, and that there's no really silos or walls there. It's good, clear communication. Then we move to our region vice presidents. Region 1 vice president is Gary Krulowitz, Region 2, Eric Mock, Region 3, Vern Ziegler, and Region 4, Tommy McDaniel. So the idea of the region vice presidents is to really keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on in their in their region, the districts that are in their region. And so the hope is that they're able to travel to different district meetings, or at least have conference calls with the district presidents, so that they can keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on in their region. They can talk to the other regional vice presidents, and all of a sudden, we might see a statewide trend that is going on. So those are your 4 regional vice presidents. You can read your district presidents, but generally speaking, as you know, it's very important that the district presidents do their best to lead district meetings. And we know that some districts are more active than others, and we know that some districts are tough. This district up here is super big. If you were to meet in the middle, some folks would have to drive as much as 2 hours to 3 hours to get in the middle of this district. So that's something that one day we may want to look at. We've talked about it for years and never really moved on it, but that's the idea. One of the things for the district presidents to remember is FHCA staff is available to come and speak at your district meetings, and generally that drives attendance. Sometimes it drives attendance away, but hopefully it'll drive attendance to your district meetings, and we're available for you. The next slide is the 2016-17 committee chairs. You can read those yourself. These chairs and vice chairs have been selected, and all of the committees have been selected as well. So if you if you put your name down to be on a committee, you should be receiving a letter very soon, if you haven't already, telling you what committee that you're on. So again, our committees, as John said in his opening statement, we are a member-driven organization. These committees are working committees. We are a working association. Our members really do put in the time and the effort, whether it's with a professional development committee or the annual conference committee or the budget committee. Our members are extremely involved in directing us. And one of the things that that John Simmons tried to do this year is to make sure that everybody got on a committee. So people would have to put multiple choices of what they wanted to be on. If the committee got too full, or if there were duplicate members or something like that, or if John felt somebody would serve better on a different committee, we put them on a different committee, but we made sure everybody got something to do. So we really appreciate our members' involvement as it goes to that. Our board materials are available in the members only section at FHCA.org/membership/board_materials. So you can find anything from the list of board of directors to our bylaws. It's just a wealth of resources. It talks about our Service Corps, our PAC. Spend some time on our website exploring all the resources available to you. We've got a great website. We feel it's very functional and very informative. It's a great resource for you all. Next, I want to talk about FHCA membership growth. As you see there, we've been on an upward trend, especially the last 4 or 5 years, where we're at 559 skilled nursing facilities to date. That is a 81%. Let's go to the next slide. See, about 81% of the membership. Now, this pie chart just kind of shows you how the Florida nursing centers break down. In the light blue, you have FHCA members. The orange slice there is dual members between FHCA and leading age. The dark blue is the leading age members at 49, and then we have 74 non-members. Is that right?
Not represented by association.
Right, the 74 that are not represented by association. So if you look at it, I mean, we've got 559 members, and leading age has 49 skilled nursing members. So whenever we're talking, a lot of times people say, well, you guys should work with leading age. We try to work with them where we can, but we have to remember that we're representing the bulk of the members in the state of Florida, and so we just have to be careful when we do that. Next, assisted living members, FHCA assisted living members. As you can see, we just kind of plateaued there. Really need to decide, again, I sound like a broken record, I feel like, what we want to be with ALFs. Do we want to represent them? Do we, or are we just satisfied with representing? Most of these ALFs are connected, by the way, with skilled nursing facility members. So we just got to decide what we want to do, and that's going to be up to the board and future strategic planning. Our next slide, we'll talk about our Florida Promise. So our Florida Promise was started probably 8 or 9 years ago by a small group of owner members, and just quite candidly, they felt that their voice wasn't being represented at the association level. If you look at how the FHCA board is structured, it's mostly nursing home administrators that are on the board, and it's intended, it's purposeful that way. Somewhere along the line, the nursing home owners and the nursing home administrators stopped talking to each other about what was important legislatively, and the association, quite frankly, kind of took their foot off of the gas when it came to being politically active, and so it was kind of the perfect storm. There was a point where the owner said, let's create another group called Our Florida Promise, and essentially that was going to turn into a competing association or organization, for lack of a better way to put it. Some wise owners realized that was not the best way to go, and that it was important to keep the association unified. And so I came on board. They made me the executive director of both groups with the intention of trying to unify both FHCA and our Florida Promise. And I think we can all see we've done a pretty good job as a group doing that. And really, it just came down to communication. So if you don't know, our Florida Promise is primarily nursing home owners. They are what we call the big donors for political giving. Each election cycle we give through our Florida Promise nearly $3 million. An election cycle, by the way, lasts 2 years. Because of our political activity through our Florida Promise and FHCA, we've become one of the most recognized lobbying groups for their particular special interest, and so we're very proud of that. What's even more impressive is that while we're doing $3 million an election cycle, those above us, HMOs, trial lawyers, things of that nature, they're more in the $8 and $9 million mark. So they're given 2, 3, sometimes 4 times as much as we are during an election cycle, yet we're being very effective. And that's because of you know, our what Bob will talk about later, our kind of three-legged stool of big political giving through our Florida Promise. Let's go to the next slide. FHCA Pack is another part of that giving. The FHCA Pack, as you can see the board there, is designed to welcome any of our members. Owner members are welcome, but it's primarily non-owner members, for instance, administrators, DON, CNAs, vendors, our business partners, excuse me, that want to give to the cause, but maybe they're only able to give $25 or $100 a year. Maybe that's all they have in their budget, but they want to be part of the team. Well, we want to have a place for them to be able to contribute as well, and the FHCA Pack is a great place to do that. So between the giving of the PAC and the Our Florida Promise, between the facility visits that many of you all have participated in, where we bring lawmakers into the facility, we let them meet your residents, and then finally the third part, the leg of that stool, is Lobby Wednesdays, and you'll sure hear more about that. But those are all great things that start out of Our Florida Promise and FHCA Pack. All right. So that's the political side of things from at least the administrative part. We also have an FHCA Service Corps. Again, that's in the middle of an evolution as well. When we started here about 7 years ago, we were generating about $50,000 a year through the Service Corps. And the Service Corps really is designed to have a business. It's a for-profit entity. It's designed to have businesses that want to do business with FHCA members and maybe offer them some sort of extra benefit for being a member, whether it's discounted pricing or another special service. But that's what the Service Corps is for. The Service Corps does have a board, and they do decide who gets on the Service Corps. Now, the evolution of the Service Corps is this. While we were generating about $50,000 7 years ago, what are we, $250 now? Yeah, we're nearly $200,000 now through the Service Corps. And the idea is this. We're looking for companies that can come in and generate significant dollars for not only for our members, but also for the association. And so really we'd like to see Service Corps members on there that could generate around $100,000, between $50,000 and $100,000 each for the association. Before it was $5,000 got you a Service Corps membership, but since we brought Jenny on board, Jenny Early on board, she has kind of forced us to rearrange that, because she's so good at branding and selling sponsorships and giving value-added sponsorships to our members, that really their $5,000 would be better spent with her during our conference or during one of our educational seminars or something of that nature. And so now we're retooling the Service Corps and trying to bring in kind of the heavy hitters that are looking for a long-term play with the association. And you can see those that we have there: Bouchard, Edge, Healthcare Services Group is new, HPSI is new, Office Depot, and Senior Crime Stoppers. And of those, Bouchard is really kind of the king when it comes to Service Corps dollars. So if you haven't looked at Bouchard for your insurance, give them a look. They do a great job. And if you have an idea, by the way, of a good Service Corps member that we're not thinking of, please give me a call. I'd love to do it. All right, next we have our Florida Leaders Program. I bet most of you on the line have been through it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it except to say that Kristen Knapp has done just an incredible job of leading these folks year in and year out, creating excitement but also value and education. The goal of the Florida Leaders Program is to really have people graduate from that program understanding the ins and outs of this association and how they can become involved in it. I don't know if anyone in here has the number, but I bet you a majority of our board has been through the Florida Leaders Program, and that is really, really good because it's helped us build a solid board. When I came here, I keep referring back to that, when we came here 7 or 8 years ago, our board was very inactive, and I can remember Scott Allen was on the executive committee at the time, and he said, look, I really, really want to have an active board, and the Florida Leaders has helped us get there. So Florida Leaders is a great program, and I know most of you know about that. Our FHCA Education Development Foundation is a 501c3. Primarily, we help promote scholarships for caregivers working in member centers. So that's a great foundation, and we can teach you more about that later down the road if you want to know. Our FHCA Consultants, this is a service that's really, we need to continue to promote it for our members. Essentially, these consultants are available to our membership for a one call, for lack of a better term, if they're having an issue, whether it's with an accounting issue, they can call Moore Stevens Loveless, Regulatory Counsel, Karen Goldsmith, or Labor Relations, Mike Miller, and we've recently added our survey and training consultant, Robin Blyer, which we'll kind of roll that out publicly next week. And then FHCA's General Counsel is Andrea Riley. So these folks are available to our members for a question. If it turns into a lengthy question or there's follow-up questions, they're going to start charging our members, and that's kind of the deal that we have with them. But it's worked very well. Our members like it, and we've got some great consultants. Next, American Healthcare Association and National Center for Assisted Living. You can see the committees that FHCA staff and members are involved in. If you want to get involved on a national level, please let me know. We want to help you with that. There's all sorts of places that we can plug you in. Our partnering organizations, you can see them there. We have good lines of communications with these groups. We used to bring these groups to our board meetings, really don't anymore. It's more kind of, they might come to one board meeting a year. I might go to one of their board meetings a year, but we still have good communication with them, and we're there to help each other. I want to wrap up with the Executive Office and Administrative Department. That's my team. Mitzi Woods is the Executive Office and Services Manager. She is my right hand, and she also takes care of all of us here as far as the office is concerned, keeps the office running well. We also have, what, about half the office rented out? Half the space? Dawn, I'm looking at Dawn. Yeah, so about half of it rented out, completely leased out, and Mitzi deals with them as well. And of course, everybody that calls up here knows Venetia, our office assistant. She does a great job manning the front desk and doing so much more for us. And you can take time later to look at our responsibilities, but there are a lot of responsibilities, and my team does them well. I'm very proud of them. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over now to Carol Berkowitz, our Senior Director of Quality Affairs. Carol?
Thank you, Emmett, and good morning, everybody. I am sure most of you are familiar with the department, but I'm going to take the next couple minutes to go through my department, the quality department, and talk about our staff as well as some of the activities. First, you'll see Leanne Griffin. She is responsible for education, ALF, and regulatory questions. She's also the liaison for Professional Development Committee, FCAL Committee, Rules and Regs. April Hinkle is the project manager. She's responsible for emergency preparedness and special projects. She's also the liaison for the FHCA's Quality Cabinet Councils. Coco Okana is the research analyst, and a lot of people call her, she's kind of like our little secret. She knows how to manipulate those stars. She knows how to manipulate the nursing home guide. She is very familiar with FHCA's quality, American Healthcare and CAL's quality awards, and she's really a true gem. All three of them are great, so I don't mean to take away from my other staff. The next slide, please. Here is just a sample of questions that come from members, everything from survey questions to quality measures. What do quality measures mean for me, for our center? If there's a survey insert letter, what does that mean? Where can I find it? Questions about the Gold Seal application, questions about the AIT program preceptor, maybe if a center might need some training or if our members need training. We get those kinds of calls as well. Next, okay. The FHCA Quality Cabinet is a new entity. It has transitioned or transformed from the Quality Foundation. If you all were familiar with the Quality Foundation, it was a separate entity, and it was very functional for many, many years, but as time went on, the communication between the separate entity and the FHCA board just no longer functioned as well as it should have. And we spent a lot of time last year through strategic planning and trying to figure out what's the best the best vehicle to transform quality, and it was decided to create this quality cabinet that is modeled after American Healthcare IMCAL's quality cabinet. For right now, it still houses the three councils that the Quality Foundation oversaw, and so we have the Culture Change Council, the Emergency Preparedness, and the Senior Clinicians. And April Hinkle is the council liaison. I am the Quality Cabinet liaison, and Scott Allen chairs that. Next slide, please. This is just an example of some of the compliance tools and kinds of resources you might find on the website. We work really hard in our department to update and keep those as current as possible. And we hope that you do go online if you're looking for something and we haven't updated or made something more current. We're always open to doing better at that. Next slide, please. We also work with the various committees to promote member recognition and honors. Examples of these member recognition and honors include the CNA Essay Contest, the ALF Administrator of the Year Award, the Nursing Home Administrators, Bruce Taylor Scholarship, and so many other kinds of recognitions you will see at Nurse Leadership as well as the conference. And next slide, please. We also pride ourselves, the councils that are under the cabinet have members who are very much subject matter experts, like three councils that I just talked about. The emergency preparedness has many people who are experts in that area, as well as senior clinicians are actually leaders, nurse leaders, who assist with the various subjects that we discuss. And then, of course, the culture change, those folks are also subject matter experts. Next slide. We, we represent and we support all of the members, but we also, within the quality department, focus on not-for-profit, the independent owners, assisted living facilities. And I say that because we're always trying to create resources that would support all of our members, but we are focused on the different representatives as well. Next slide, please. ALF form. As I said before, Leanne Griffin is the staff support for the ALF. You will see that we work on various things, including developing policies, supporting members with survey and regulatory, developing education related to ALF, stimulating information and communications between the ALF members, advocating both in the regulatory world as well as the legislative world, and we create opportunities for exchanging information regarding ALF. Finally, here's just another example of the website with tools for our ALF members, and we're constantly updating to make sure that the ALF members stay current. And with that, it concludes my section of the session, and I'm going to turn it over to Bob Astalis, our Chief Lobbyist. Bob?
Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being with us. So let me talk a little bit about the Government Affairs Office. And for Government Affairs, there's 4 of us in that department, and there's myself and Melody Arnold. And Melody really handles the lobbying, some of the lobbying, and then the political events. So as you see in focus, legislators visiting facilities and us doing events with legislators and candidates, that's really Melody who does that. Tom handles our reimbursement issues, so he's the one who's figuring out the presentations that we're making to the legislature and also helping facilities with reimbursement issues and managed care, so he's the one to go to on that. Teresa kind of keeps us all together, and she's the one who you would talk to as you're arranging a Lobby Wednesday, or if you've got people who want to do facility visits and they want to arrange it with candidates, or to have us come out to district meetings. Teresa kind of works with us all to keep us all going in the right direction. The next slide. So the Government Affairs team, what we really do is our initial task is to take what's going out there in the buildings and to look at ways that we can use the government to help you take care of your residents, or to get the government out of your way in taking care of residents. So it's really to work with our committees, our legislative committees, reimbursement committees, quality committees, to develop legislative proposals and take those, get them in rule or bill form or amendment, and then to move them in the legislature. We also help American Healthcare Association by lobbying at the federal level. So our role with American Healthcare is really the Florida delegation, our 27 legislators that we have in Congress. We work with them on American Healthcare Association's agenda. Lobby Wednesdays, like Emmett said, one of the unique things that we do is during the legislative session, we have people coming in every week, and our folks come on up here. I'm sure you've all been part of a Lobby Wednesday. You either come in the night before or the morning of, have breakfast that morning or dinner the night before, go up to the Capitol, spend the morning up at the Capitol meeting with legislators, and then you're pretty much done by midday and can head back home. One of the things that we really encourage is each of the districts to put together a Lobby Wednesday, organize a Lobby Wednesday, and bring your folks up here. And again, you can work with Teresa on scheduling dates for the Lobby Wednesdays. We also manage a lobby team. We have 16 lobbyists who work with us. We have Democratic lobbyists, Republican lobbyists, House lobbyists, Senate lobbyists, and so on. And so they're the ones who are really up at the Capitol all the time during the session and the committee weeks, driving our issues and keeping an ear out for things that may hurt us. Politically, we're very active politically, as Emmett said. Nursing homes do about $3 million, probably about $2.25 million of that is actually organized through Florida Healthcare and our Florida Promise. And to help manage that, we have 5 political action committees that we work with. We work with our owners on helping them decide where to put political money into which candidates and things like that, and just coordinating the political giving. And the whole reason is that why we're effective with lesser money than other groups is we try to unify our message so that our message is consistent throughout the profession and that legislators aren't getting mixed messages during the campaign season. And then the last thing is working with our Florida Promise on the legislative agenda and political events. What we try to do is coordinate it all. In the off season, when they're not here, we're coordinating political events, we're doing fundraisers and things like that. We're getting our messages out there. And then the intention is during session, we have bills and legislative proposals together, and we push that through the legislative session. The next slide. So one of the big ways that you all can help, that staff can help, the folks who work in our facilities, is really through contributions to the PAC, and that's the FHC Pack. We have the Our Florida Promise, which gives corporate money to leadership and things like that, but the PAC is really the vehicle for our ordinary workers to be involved in the political process. And there's various levels that we have with the PAC, from the presidential level, which is a $2,500 contribution to a friend, which is $50. But honestly, we really encourage all contributions. We're just as happy to get a $25 contribution from a CNA as a $2,500 contribution from someone else. So we use the PAC, and that's the way people could get involved in the process and let us elect people who are supportive of long-term care. The next slide. And again, it's our PAC, like I said, that really drives it. In political giving, so when you look at the over $2 million that we give overall, the PAC itself gives $160,000 in political giving over the 2-year cycle, which is a pretty good number when you look at PACs here in Tallahassee. But one of the things that we do with the political giving of the PAC is that's what we really use to get legislators into buildings. We make a real concentrated effort to make sure that the dollars given from the PAC are given to legislators and facility tours. And in the last election cycle, the 14 to 16, we did over 100 facility tours or meetings in the districts with our members. And this is something legislators, they don't forget that. I mean, it's one thing, you know, at the Governor's Club with rubber meatballs and everything to give legislators money, and you know, they got handfuls of checks coming at them from all over, and they don't remember who gave them money and all that. But they do remember when we support them in the facility tours, and it gives them a chance to see what you do. So that's a real important part. The next slide. And then the next part is reimbursement, and really this is the last part, and this is Tom Parker. We've been so fortunate to bring Tom Parker on board from ACA, and he is just masterful at doing the things he does. And so one of his major functions is Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement. He works with American Healthcare on calculating rates and putting proposals together for the legislature and working with the agency on our payments. The other thing that he does is he's working on the prospective payment proposals that are coming out of Navigant and the agency, and looking to see how that impacts our buildings and giving ideas to the agency. But I think the other thing too is that where he can be a real great resource to you is as members ask questions, how these legislative proposals will impact them. What will prospective payment do? Once the data is out there, Tom will be able to get that information to you or to the buildings directly as to what these legislative proposals, what does a new prospective payment mean for each individual building. And so that's an excellent resource. The other thing that he deals with quite a bit is quality assessment questions and calculations. And lastly, what he's spending a lot of his time with is on managed care. He's truly been working with the managed care companies to resolve many of the billing issues. Not all have been resolved. Not all have been resolved successfully, but one of the things that he does is he has a great relationship with the managed care companies, and we've been able to take care of problems here and there. So as your billing clerks are pulling their hair out because the managed care companies can't respond and won't respond, Tom's a good back door to help get answers to your questions. So that is the Government Affairs Department. And with that, I'll turn it over to Christina Michael to talk about the event planning team.
So we've had a little bit of a change up in the event planning department recently. I am now the event planning manager. I work with Sarah Duff, who is the event planning coordinator, and Leanne Bradley has stayed on with us and will be working on our hotel contracts, and she is the event planning liaison. So we work on our larger events such as conference and nurse leadership. We work with the annual conference committee on developing the theme and working on our keynote speakers for each conference. We also have the fall symposium, quality symposium, and our regional events that are the first week of December coming up this year. Other events that we work on are Lobby Wednesdays. We do trainings around the state. We have our board meetings. We work on any pop-up events that need to happen, any new hot topics that come up. We're going to create an event that everyone can come to. We really like when our board comes to our events. We suggest that you register early, book your hotel room early for events, and we really like when you stay at the property that our hotel or our event is at to help us with our room block. Another thing that we suggest is when you guys are at the events to thank our sponsors and our vendors. They really help put on the event. And if you guys need anything from us, we're here to assist you guys with logistics. If your guys are coming to Tallahassee to come visit, just let us know. And we're here to help you. So if you need anything, feel free to reach out to myself or Sarah Duff. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kristen.
Thank you, Christina. This is Kristen Knapp. I'm your Director of Communications. I am going to just quickly go over what our department does. Jenny Early works in our department. She's our Marketing and Communications Coordinator. As Emmett mentioned, Jenny is really our sponsorship guru. She manages all of our sponsor benefits programs, from our overall sponsors that work with us throughout the year to our individual events sponsorships. She also manages the trade show and the tabletop expos that we do throughout the year at the regionals and nurse leadership, for example. So she's a great resource to you all if you have ideas for folks who may be interested in supporting our events. You can feed that information to Jenny. If you're working with sponsors at the district level and you want to kind of brainstorm some ideas on how, you know, some benefits you may be able to offer them, she's a great resource. And then we've got Erica Levy, who is our part-time marketing and communications assistant, and she supports us with a lot of the communication activities that we do. Next slide. So basically what our department does is we manage all of the communications and event marketing throughout the year. So all of the member emails that you receive. I know when I go to conference, everyone always says, oh, you're the girl that sends me all the emails. So, but the weekly focus, we've got a lot of different targeted newsletters that we do. Of course, the monthly printed pulse, you know, any type of member updates. You should have gotten an alert this morning about more information about the CMS rule. And then just marketing our different events throughout the year. All those communications come out of our department. with the, I will say we do the monthly pulse. We're always looking for photos of the activities that are happening in your buildings. If you get customer satisfaction letters, I'd love to see those. We like to include that to just help promote quality and long-term care. So anytime you have events and activities happening, whether it's in your district or in your building, please share that with us because we're looking for that type of information to push out through our communications. Next slide. We also manage all of the association's digital channels, so all of our websites from the PAC and conference website and the Florida Healthcare site. We have our Elder Care in Florida website that is a consumer-based website where we have resources and information, and then we push people to our member facility locator so they can find nursing centers and ALFs in their area. We also manage the FHCA app that you use at conference. We're actually looking at building out onto that and having it available for more Florida healthcare activities. So we'll be launching that sometime in the spring. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, all of our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you're not, if you haven't liked the FHCA Facebook page yet, I encourage you to do so. We put a lot of information out there, promote a lot of our member activity, things that are happening with the association, and push some interesting news articles through that as well. Next slide. And then, of course, our department supports all of the media relations activities that we do throughout the year. If you ever get a call from the press and you need assistance, I am your resource. Please feel free to call me anytime. My cell phone number is on my email, so you should have that as well. We offer, crisis counseling. We can help you with PR activity if you need help drafting a press release. You've got a special event coming and you need some contacts in your local area for the media, we're available to you. I also am available to come down to your district to do media trainings. I just recently went to District 5 to do that, and I'm headed down to Palm Beach next month to do that for them as well. So please let me know. I would love to come visit your district and do a media training. So that is available to you. Next slide. And then we also work with the government affairs team on putting together advocacy resources. So if you have a legislator coming into your nursing center and you need some information, we have some great tips on our website about how to host a successful facility tour. So I encourage you to look in the advocacy section of our website and go through that. I know a lot of you all have done it many times, so you're very well versed in how to make that successful, which also includes sending Kristen a photo. But we manage our Engage platform where if we do have alerts that we need to get out to you and we need your help with taking action and emailing a legislator, our department pushes all that information out and then just works on putting together talking points for our members who may be testifying before a committee or just trying to help take the information that Bob and his team are conveying to the legislator and putting that in more, a little bit more user-friendly messaging for our members when they come up for Lobby Wednesday. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, Jenny is our sponsorship point of contact. She also is the liaison to the AMSC Good Guys and the Associate Member Support Committee, which is our business partners committee where they really have a voice to share their input for annual conference and our special events on how we can make sure that they are getting the most value out of their participation in our events. And then she works, again, as Emmett mentioned earlier, she works a lot with our Service Corps members and making sure that we are delivering the benefits that are offered to them. So next slide. I think with that is the end of my part. So I'm going to turn it over to Dawn, who's going to talk about membership and accounting.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, this is Dawn Segler. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration. And the two people that you see on your screen, I work with Janie Ross, who is the accounting manager here. Janie handles the accounts receivables and the accounts payables for the association. She records all of the daily transactions and maintains the general ledger. And for the board, she's the point of contact for board travel reimbursement. And Janie also manages the authorized signer process for the districts and makes the district bank deposits. Annette Edouard is the Member Services and Accounting Assistant. And Annette's responsibilities include she processes all credit card transactions, she maintains our member database, and she coordinates member mailings, including dues renewals and member packets. For the districts, Annette is the point of contact for your district bank statements. She is the person to whom you send your monthly district financial report. And monthly, Annette sends out updated member lists to be used for your district communications. My role here at the association is that I oversee all of the association's finances. I'm over the member services department, and I also serve as the human resources representative. I'm the liaison to the budget committee, which develops the FHCA annual operating budget and oversees the association's investment portfolio. And with respect to the districts, I'm the point of contact for district officer elections and the credentialing process that has to take place before elections are held. On the next slide, we're going to talk about why is it that we have district organizations. One very important reason is that the districts are part of our board. The 16 district presidents serve as your local representatives on the board and are voting members on the board of directors. The board meetings themselves can be a valuable source of information for the districts. The president or the person who attends in his or her place can report back with everything that was discussed at the board meetings when they go to their next district meeting. And for that reason, we feel it's very important that you do have a representative present at the board meetings, and if the president is unable to attend, that you have someone attend in their place. We have 4 board meetings held during the year. We have a board meeting held in Tallahassee during legislative session. We have a board meeting in the spring, which is usually in April or May. There's a brief meeting that's held on site at the annual conference. And then we have a fall meeting, which this year will be held October 27th through the 28th at Amelia Island. Another important aspect of district organizations is the monthly meetings that are held. The local district meetings are very important. They can be, as I said, a good source of information to provide to the district members in terms of the things that were discussed at the board meeting. And also, district members can share information with each other just concerning day-to-day operations in their buildings. They can discuss long-term care developments and also what's happening in the survey process. It also provides a means for district members to network with their other healthcare professionals and with our associate members. I know that some districts do struggle with attendance in areas where we have a lot of members. The district size is smaller than, say, other areas of the state where members are more spread out, and certainly we do have some geographical challenges for people to be able to take the time out of their busy schedule to attend district meetings. And I would just encourage that each district who is struggling with attendance and participation to just use innovative ways to try to increase participation. One way to do that might be to offer CEU credit at your meeting, and we'll discuss in a minute how to go about getting credits for your monthly meetings. Another way would be to maybe offer door prizes at your meeting. Survey your district members to find out what times and locations work best for them You know, we have some districts that meet in the morning for a breakfast meeting. A lot of our districts meet at lunchtime, but I would just encourage you to find out what works best for the members within your district. And then, of course, another very important purpose of the districts is that while we're here to support you and your efforts, there's ways for you to also support FHCA in return. One way, as Bob talked about earlier, is to get involved legislatively, to organize a lobby day for your district. FHCA covers the cost of your room night and provides you with breakfast on the day of your visit to the Capitol. And so we just encourage you to use that as an opportunity to do something together as a group and to support FHCA in our legislative efforts. Another way that you can support FHCA, and this of course is dependent upon your financial resources, but you can support us in our fundraising efforts. We have a very popular silent auction and golf tournament that occurs at our annual conference each year, and both of these events go to help support our PAC. So if it's within your budget to do so, we encourage you to be sponsors of our golf tournament and or to contribute items to the silent auction. The next slide goes into how to go about credits for your monthly meetings. Coco Acano is your point of contact for that process, and actually it's located online. There's a URL on the slide, and you can essentially just go online, sign up for your training to get the CEUs, and Coco will evaluate that and in order for you to be able to offer credit for your meetings. There is a cost associated with it. We can co-sponsor your monthly meeting for up to 2 CEUs per meeting, and the cost of that credit is $100 per CEU. But if you have any questions about that process, be sure to contact Coco. Also, you'll see when you visit that web page that there is a list of pre-approved courses that's available to you. There's any number of topics listed there, and you can arrange to have someone from FHCA staff come and do a presentation at your meeting, and all of those topics are pre-approved for CEU credit. Okay, the next slide discusses information about being reimbursed for attending board meetings. Of course, we will pay for our board members to attend our meetings, including round-trip travel, which can include airfare, mileage if you choose to drive instead of fly. And what we currently do is that we reimburse at the IRS mileage rate of 57.5 cents per mile, or you can submit for reimbursement for a rental car and actual fuel cost. We also pay for the cost of lodging and encourage you to get your room reservations made while negotiated room rate is in effect for the meeting so that we can conserve costs. And also meals, we will reimburse for those as well, although typically at a board meeting, breakfast and lunch are already provided. And then you'll see there on the right of the slide, there are some things for which we do not reimburse. We do not reimburse board members for attending the meeting that's held at the FHCA annual conference, and the reason for that is that we assume that you'll be at annual conference already. And then also, while we encourage board members to invite their guests to accompany them to board meetings, we do not pay for any incremental costs that are incurred associated with the attendance of guests. Okay, let's see, the next slide is the reimbursement form that you would submit in order to get reimbursed for your board travel. Keep in mind that the 16 district presidents who serve on the board, their reimbursement comes from their district account. So this form, along with any sort of receipts that accompany it, would be submitted to their district treasurer. If you aren't a district president and you're requesting reimbursement for travel to a FHCA board meeting, then this form, along with the receipts, would get submitted to Janie Ross here on staff. The form is set up in Excel so that when you enter the number of miles in the column that's labeled, it calculates your mileage reimbursement for you based upon the IRS mileage rate. And then you'll see that there is a note at the bottom of the form which states that if you do choose to rent a vehicle instead of using your personal vehicle, that we would reimburse the actual fuel expenditures instead of the mileage rate. Okay, the next slide just kind of goes over what we like to see in terms of reimbursement documentation. Of course, we'd like on the form for you to indicate what the purpose of the business travel was, where you were traveling from, where you're traveling to, the dates of the meeting, and so forth. We would like for you to attach to that form legible receipts for all of your transactions. Of course, we understand that there are times when you either a receipt was not obtained or it can't be located, and if that's the case, just please note that on the form itself so that we don't spend a lot of time trying to find a receipt that may not be there. If you have expenditures that are charged to your hotel room bill, we just ask that you, when at all possible, include a separate receipt for those types of charges instead of just having them appear on your room bill. And the main reason for that is because when you do have meal receipts, we like to know if there are any other individuals included in that receipt so that we can know how to code that expense. Okay. The next slide goes into the district bylaws. Our district bylaws were developed in 2013, approved by the FHCA Board of Directors, and they became effective in 2014. So each of the 16 districts should have ratified district bylaws in place. And there's just a lot of information in those bylaws which can really, I think, go a long way to helping to orient you to your new role at the district if you haven't previously served in a district office. It includes membership requirements, the due structure for the district, which we'll talk about in just a minute. There's all kinds of information in there about district elections, and since I'm the point of contact here on staff for district elections, I'll just kind of go through some of the questions that we typically get around the time elections occur. Elections occur each year prior to annual conference. The incoming district president is actually inducted onto the FHCA Board of Directors at the Circle of Excellence luncheon that takes place at conference. Prior to those elections occurring each year, though, the district should submit a slate of officers that should be sent to me so that I can credential them and make sure that they are eligible to serve in a district office. There are some requirements for each of the offices. The district president and the district vice president can only be held by an administrator, an assistant administrator, or the owner of a member nursing center or ALF located within the district. Associate members can also hold office. They just can't hold the office of president or vice president because of those requirements. And they can serve as either secretary or treasurer, and those two offices can actually be combined if you don't have two separate individuals to fill those roles. Now, one thing that's caused a little bit of confusion in recent years is that for an associate member to serve in a district office, that associate membership address of record has to be located within the district boundaries. This is a little bit confusing because when an associate member joins Florida Healthcare Association, it really does cover all of their locations throughout the state of Florida. However, if the associate membership is located in Miami and they have an office in Tampa, representatives from their Tampa office would not be able to serve in a District 4 officer role unless there was also a membership located within District 4. So just be aware of that when you're having associate members who are interested in serving at the district level. Elections can, of course, be held at your district meeting, but if you have difficulty establishing a quorum at your meeting, we just encourage you to go ahead and have those elections electronically via email. And then all of the incoming district officers take office at the close of annual conference, even though the elections occur before the conference takes place. The district bylaws includes, like I said, a lot of information. There's information in there about the duties of the different district offices. There's information in there about term limits, which it's a maximum of 4 consecutive one-year terms is how long an individual officer can serve. It defines for you how to achieve a quorum, and there's also information in the bylaws about how to go about making amendments to them. Okay, the next slide is just a little bit of an overview about how FHCA operations are funded. And you can see from the pie chart there that we really are dependent upon member income. Nearly 3/4 of our total funding, which it's over a $5 million budget, comes from our membership dues. So the district organizations are also funded through the dues process. If you look on the next slide, you'll see that the district dues vary across districts, and that is because each district decides on the amount at which they will charge the nursing centers and the ALF members located within their district. You'll see that the majority of the districts charge $100 per facility member, but that there are other districts that charge more than that. The associate members are all charged or the same thing, and we remit $25 of their dues to the district in which they are located. Each year, we go through a process of basically soliciting from you how you want your dues to be structured for the following year. So in the next week, you'll be receiving an email from me asking to basically at your October meeting to have this item be on the agenda for discussion. And you can let me know prior to when renewals go out in November how you want your district dues to be structured, whether you're going to keep them the same or if you want to have an increase in your district dues. There's a number of considerations that need to be factored in when you're deciding if you want to increase your district dues, one of which is whether or not you have other revenue sources. If you charge your members to attend your monthly meetings, if you have a strong associate member base who are very supportive and provide sponsorships for your meeting, and so therefore there's not a lot of cost associated with your monthly meetings, that could certainly be one consideration. Another is the number of members that you have within your district. We have a really wide range in sizes of districts. Our largest district has 87 facility members alone, and our smallest has only 19. So that could certainly impact how you structure your dues levels. Also, you would need to consider what your average annual expenditure level is per year, and then whether or not the district has significant reserves that it can tap into to fund operations. All right, the next slide goes over district banking. A number of years ago, we made the decision, instead of having each district go out and identify a local bank with whom to do business, we made the decision to bring all the district banking into our local bank here in Tallahassee. We felt that this was necessary just to have a better oversight of the district financial activity, and also we were really having some issues related to maintaining signer authorization at the district level. As I mentioned previously, Janie Ross is the accounting manager here, is the person who manages the authorization process, and all of the district officers are authorized signers on the district account. Two of the district officers, the president and the treasurer, are both issued bank debit cards to be used in making district purchases. The monthly bank statements are sent directly here to FHCA, and each month Annette Edward will scan your bank statement and send it to each district president and treasurer by email. Each month, as we receive in dues collections, Janie determines how much dues have been collected for each of the districts, and then at month end makes a deposit into your bank account on your behalf. Janie will then send a deposit confirmation form and a detail of the amounts that are included in that deposit in terms of who they were collected from by email to each district treasurer so that you have that for your records. And then in terms of other deposits, the form that you see there on the screen, that's to be used if you have any collections at your district meetings, whether from attendees or sponsorships. You would just collect those monies at the meeting and then complete this form and send it in by mail to Janie for her to deposit into your account. All right. The next slide is a copy of the monthly financial report that the district treasurers are required to submit each month. Once the district treasurer receives the bank statement from Annette Edward, then this report will need to be filled out. It's pretty simplistic. It's basically just to give us a little bit of additional information beyond that which is included on your bank statement. So you would just fill this out and then return it by email to Annette. And the reason why we ask for this information each month from all of our districts is that the districts really don't have separate legal status apart from Florida Healthcare Association. So as a result, and the fact that they do, all of you operate under our federal ID number, your financial information is actually incorporated into our income tax return each year. So that's why we have to have this information on file when we go to prepare our tax return. Okay. And then the last slide in this part of the presentation is just concerning district expenditures. What sorts of expenses can be paid for with this district funds, and what district funds should not be used for. Of course, it goes sort of without saying that anything that's dispensed from the district account should be related to the operations of the district and have a legitimate business purpose. And these, of course, would include any expenditures related to your monthly meetings, of course, the meeting travel expenses when the district president goes to the three FHCA board meetings during the year. If you have any contributions to or sponsorships to FHCA fundraising events, that is legitimate district expense. And then other expenditures, whether it's the district officers to getting together for a planning meeting, or if you're organizing a lobby day event for the members in your district, those are all legitimate expenditures. There are some things that I'd like to caution you against using district funds. One of those would be registration fees. Registration fees, including those for annual conference where you're earning CEUs, is a professional expense for licensed administrators, and so the district should not be bearing any costs related to you maintaining your license. So we don't like to see any type of registration fees being paid for from the district account. And then, as I mentioned previously, travel for annual conference, board meeting, again, you're already attending the annual conference, so there really shouldn't be any incremental costs associated with you attending the board meeting that's held at that event. Any expenses related to committee meeting travel that's done by district officers, FHCA does not reimburse its committee members for travel, so we wouldn't expect the districts to do so either. Also, FHCA is a 501c6 under the Internal Revenue Service tax code. That means that, one, you should know that we are not exempt from sales tax. And also, that prohibits us, FHCA and its districts, from making any sort of political contributions. So even if there are candidates in your local areas that you'd like to support, you would not be able to provide that support using district funds. And as I mentioned previously, we'd like to discourage any kind of reimbursement related to the travel costs associated with guests attending board meetings. Okay, that's it for my presentation, and I will turn it back over to Emmett.
All right, thanks for joining us for today's board orientation webinar. I look forward to your call. Thanks, have a great day, and go Noles.